What's up you guys, Sasha here, and today we're going to talk about how many credit cards is too many. Now this is a question that I get asked a lot. Actually, it's a very common question for people who are first getting their first credit card, who are thinking of getting more credit cards. Does it affect your credit? Does it affect your ability to get new products in the future? Does it affect your ability to get a mortgage? How exactly does it affect any of those things? There isn't just one specific answer to this question. There's three different ones. We're going to go through them one at a time, but just before we do, roll the intro. Now the first answer is the philosophical answer, and the philosophical answer is one. That's right, so one credit card is one too many. This is certainly the way that a lot of the older generation, a lot of people who haven't grown up in the world of debt and the world of perpetual credit that we currently seem to live in, one credit card is already one too many in the eyes of those people. And actually, probably if you take a big step back from the daily grind and from the everyday, it probably is one too many for a lot of people too. Now, here are a few reasons why. The first reason is a lot of people will tell themselves they go and get credit cards because they get the points, they get the air miles, they go make use of the various benefits and perks that they have, they use the protection that they offer on purchases. But the truth is, more than 50% of you, when you go and take that credit card out, you're going to borrow on it and you're going to pay interest. And you're going to pay that interest not just for 1 month, not just for 2 months, but for a long, long time. Credit card companies are not just there to give you free perks and sit back while you're sitting sipping champagne in the airport lounge, while you're converting your thousands of points into cashback or various other forms of rewards. They're there to make money. And the way they make money is by making extremely good predictions about what you're going to do. You might not think so, but those credit card companies will study your behavior a lot more closely than you ever will. They will look at your transactions, they will look at exactly how you repay, when you repay, and how much you repay. They'll take all of that data, including what you spend money on, your payment patterns, the exact timestamps of all of these things, and they'll build an extremely detailed profile of what they think you're going to do going forward. And what they will then do is model out the different routes you might take depending on what they do to your credit account. They might give you a credit limit increase, they might go and offer you some kind of incentives to go and spend. Whatever it is, they know what they're doing, and they're going to get more than half of you to go and do exactly what they want, which is revolve a balance and begin paying interest on it. Although credit cards are great because of the protection they give, the security around everyday spend, a lot of other benefits, I have a whole separate video that I'm going to link to below that talks about this. If you don't need to get into debt, you might really want to consider whether you want to go and get a credit card. It's not necessary. You can go and lead your life very, very easily without actually having a credit card. So go and have a think about it before you get yourself down the wrong road. I actually have a big video coming up which talks about the credit card industry as it is today and the way it works and some of the unscrupulous practices behind the scenes. That's going to be coming out in the next few days. If you are interested in watching that and you haven't subscribed to this channel, please make sure you subscribe right now, because I've been working on this video for days already. It is by far the most in-depth video I've done so far. Don't miss out. Now let's get to the practical answer, and the practical answer to this question is 4. And the reason it's 4 is most people don't really have a good practical reason for having more than 4 credit cards. You might tell yourself that you do, but generally speaking, almost all of the different needs that people have can be whittled down to something like this. 1, the credit card that you use for your everyday spending, your purchases, when you go to the shops. This is usually the credit card that is going to give you some kind of reward, some kind of loyalty points, some kind of benefits to spending on that credit card versus any other. Whatever it is that you prefer to use for that purpose, that is going to be your number 1 credit card. If that credit card is an American Express, you might have a second credit card that you use as a backup in places where you can't use the American Express because it's not accepted. The second type of credit card that many people will have in their wallet, or sometimes not in the wallet but in the drawer, is one they don't use every day but they use for special purposes like travel. Now this is the kind of credit card which might have no foreign exchange fees, it might have a really great exchange rate, it might not charge you for withdrawing cash, you might even have some travel related perks. Now that is the type of credit card which you might whip out the 1 time, the 2 times, maybe 3 times, I don't know, however many times you go on holiday every year, but when you're not traveling, you don't really have much of a use for it. Maybe you're not into travel, maybe you have a different credit card that you use for a very specific purpose, but generally speaking, people will often have a second credit card which they use for something other than the day-to-day spending. The third type of credit card that many people will have is something that helps them to get out of debt. This will usually be something like a 0% balance transfer card. Maybe you're doing a 0% purchase card and using the money you would have spent on purchase to repay some higher rate debt elsewhere. Maybe you're doing a money transfer trick where you're transferring money into your current account, repaying some higher interest loans, and then essentially converting those to a much lower rate on the credit card. Whichever one of those, you might have a credit card, maybe in some cases two separate credit cards, which you're using to actively manage your debt, reduce it, and pay it down as quickly as possible. But other than those three different credit cards, maybe for some people four, but other than those three, most people don't really have a genuine practical need to have more. A lot of people will be carrying a huge number of credit cards in their wallet, most of them just there to either show off or because they wanted to apply for it and they still carry it in their wallet for no reason. Generally speaking, there isn't really a good practical need to have more than three. So that's why I kind of put number 4 down there. It probably could be 5 or even 6 depending on your specific circumstances, but for most people you really don't need more than 3. Now let's get to the real answer. This is the one that might actually impact your credit applications. It will probably affect your credit profile. This is something that you need to actually begin thinking about, and that answer is, roughly speaking, 7. Now the truth is, when you're applying for more credit, let's say you're applying for loans or credit cards or something else like that, most of those scorecards and credit policies will not actually have a hard cut or a very severe penalty for the number of credit cards that you hold. Many of them will use factors like utilization, like your total outstanding debt, like the total credit limits that you have across all your different credit cards as a number that they actually worry about. Now, although more credit cards will usually result in more of all of those numbers, it doesn't always correlate in that way. So if you have a lot of credit cards that you don't actively use, that might not really impact things too much. But some lenders do have several cuts, either in their credit policy or their scorecard, which means that having too many credit cards may mean that you're going to get turned down in the future for deals that you really shouldn't be. Now, there are 2 general stages when somebody makes an assessment whether to give you a credit card loan or any other credit product or not. And the first stage will be the credit policy rules, and this will be just a set of rules where people say yes or no based on a certain number of questions to whether you should proceed to the actual scorecard stage. And some of them will be really basic, like, are you over 18? Are you currently bankrupt? There might be some other very, very straightforward rules. Some of them will be a bit more complicated, so a lot of people will decline you if you have too many recent searches. Say you have 4, 5 or 6 recent searches on the bureau in the last 1 to 3 months, some other factors like that. Now, most people will not have a hard rule like that for the number of credit cards that you hold, and the scorecard that comes after the policy rules is a little bit different. This is one where no single variable will usually be able to just knock you out and say no, you're not going to get it. It will be a complicated mathematical formula where a lot of different variables will go into it and you'll get some kind of score at the end that the company will calculate, and they'll make a determination as to whether you should get a credit card, loan, or any other credit product on the back of that. Now, the scorecard will usually have something about the number of credit cards that you have. It won't be specifically about credit cards. It will be unsecured revolving line products, which includes a few other types of credit that you might have. From working in the industry, the number of credit cards will not be a very significant factor. Some people will have a factor in there, but generally speaking, you will not really be penalized until you're somewhere over 6. And even then, it is quite rare for this to have a significant impact on your overall score. Even if you have 7, 8, or 9 credit cards, you probably will still not have too much issue getting accepted. Now, I'm not advocating that you go and get that many credit cards. In fact, it's a really bad idea to go and get that many credit cards. And although 7 is my favorite number, that is not actually why I picked it. Genuinely speaking, if you keep your number of credit cards in your wallet to a maximum of 6, no matter what the circumstances, you probably will have no discernible downside to having those credit cards on your eligibility for other products. Now, having said that, there's probably a couple things that you really need to know about the number of credit cards and what else they might impact. And the first of those things is if you're applying for a mortgage or might be applying for a mortgage soon. Now, when you're applying for a mortgage, the situation is not just as simple as a scorecard or a credit policy saying a yes or a no answer. In a lot of cases, you might have to do an interview, you might have a bunch of questions fired at you. People might want to look at your statements and understand exactly what you're doing with your various products. If you have lots and lots of credit cards, that might send a lot of warning flags, and you might find that the manual review process is a bit more onerous and a bit more slow than you might like. Now, the last time I was buying a house, I had a crazy number of credit cards because I always apply for all the different credit cards that are out there. I go and look at their features, the things I like about them, things I don't like about them, compare and contrast. But that still didn't mean that I wasn't able to get the mortgage. What is going to happen to you if you are in this situation is you'll probably have to spend a fair amount of time on the phone with whoever you're doing your interview with, explaining exactly why you have these credit cards, what the different purposes of the different credit cards are, what the different balances on them might be. So if you have one where you're repaying the debt, you might need to explain exactly what the history of that is. If you have another one where every day you're spending on that credit card but you repay it in full every month, as long as you have a reasonable, clear explanation of why you have all these different credit cards, you'll probably be okay, subject to your total debt number, the total credit limits, and all of those other numbers fitting within the parameters of what the mortgage company is happy with. The other thing to note is it's actually a really bad idea to have more credit cards than you actually need. If you have credit cards that you have never used or you haven't used for at least a year, go and close them. Having more credit cards does not help your credit rating. It doesn't help your credit score. It doesn't help anything much. Please ignore the videos that tell you that that is the case. In America, it is a little bit different. Having a certain number of credit cards might be slightly better. In the UK, it definitely isn't the case. So if you have these credit cards that are lying in a drawer that you might want to use at some point but haven't used, go and close them. The fact of the matter is, if you do need a similar credit card to whatever it is that you've just closed in the future, you'll probably be able to get a better rate. You'll get some introductory promo, you'll get some kind of 0% interest rate for a period of time. Whatever it is, you're probably going to get a better deal when you do need it, and you'll be able to apply for that credit card then. Well, I hope you guys found this useful. If you have, please make sure you smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Our channel is new, and every single one of these likes really helps us grow and get to more people more quickly. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you subscribe. Please hit that bell so you get notifications every time one of my videos comes out, and I'll see you guys later.